So, yes, so now we are here. Thank you, Michael. Thank you to be here one more day with us.
Alex. Oh, there I am.
Yes, there you are. How are you,
Awesome.
Michael?
Really good. Thanks. How's it going?
Very, very good.
Great. Yeah, other than I thought I was going to miss you. We had a big lightning storm here. My power went out for a bit and just came back on.
Yeah, same here. I heard a little thunderstorms and things like that, but we're here. Talk
That's
about the
awesome.
truth of the buy downs. That's a
Yeah,
very
great.
big topic right now that is going around. But it's a lot of people that they have no idea that what is and how that works. So that's you are the expert. So let us know.
Yeah, sure. So buy downs, if you're anywhere in the mortgage space right now, you've probably heard of the marketing around buy downs. So it's a very hot topic. A lot of realtors, a lot of mortgage people are promoting this as the new best thing. But there's some hidden truths about buy downs that it's important to know about before you make a decision to do a buy down. And I think the easiest way to describe buy downs is to start off just reminding everybody of the old saying, nobody's giving away anything for free. I always say that to my clients, and just to remind them that there is a lot of marketing hype everywhere. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, normally you're not really getting anything for free. And unfortunately, buy downs fall into that category. On the surface, the way a buy down seems to work is that the seller is going to, or the lender is going to pay to buy down your interest rate for a set number of years out of the gate. So there's a few different buy down options. There's like a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, a 1 year. So just all kinds of different options. And what happens is the money that it costs to buy down that rate, there's obviously a fee to buy down your interest rate for that short period of time. The
Mhm.
money has to come from either the seller or the lender. It's very rare that you're going to get it from the lender, only because the margins in loans are thin, are too thin to be able to put that much money towards a buy down option. And when I say that much money, it's important to note it's a lot of money to buy down your rate. At the end of the day, the cost of buying down an interest rate is exactly how much interest you would have paid had you had the higher rate. So, for example, if you have a 6% rate and you buy it down to 5% for 1 year, the cost of buying that rate down is the interest that you would have paid if you would have had a 6% rate versus a 5, the difference in those two rates. So again, nobody's giving away anything for free. Somebody has to pay that interest to the investors. And in this case, the buy down shifts the focus from the buyer paying the interest to the seller. But here's where it drives me a little crazy with buy downs, because at the end of the day, if the seller is going to give a seller credit to help facilitate a buy down,
Mhm.
who's really paying for that seller credit? And the simple answer is the borrower. Remember that if a home is listed for sale at $500,000 and the seller agrees to give you a $10,000 seller credit, in actuality, the seller's only taking $490 for the house, but at closing they collected 500 and they gave 10,000 of that 500 back to you, the borrower, in the form of a seller credit. But where did the seller get it from initially? They got it from you, the buyer, because you paid $500,000 for the house. So seller credits in a roundabout way are really just borrowers financing closing costs. And in this case, it's you financing interest expense through your purchase price, through your loan amount, rather than paying that interest over whatever allocated or whatever set period of time the buy down makes you think you're gaining an advantage. So not everything they're cracked up to be buy downs. And I definitely would recommend that if you have your own savings and you don't really need a seller credit, then I would recommend either buying the rate down yourself or not buying it down at all and just purchasing the house for a lesser purchase price. So in that 500,000 example, instead of buying it for 500,000 and getting 10,000 back, which you're really just financing minus your down payment, I'd recommend just buying the house for 490. Obviously, the less you buy the house and the less you finance, the stronger financial situation you will build over time.
So, is any benefits of buying down for the borrowers?
Really, the only benefit is if you refinance within that buy down period. So, for example, if you did a 3-1 buy down, for example, where you bought the rate down for your first 3 years, but interest rates came down within that time period, and you were able to refinance into a better rate. Well, the money that was set aside in the beginning to purchase the buy down, any remaining balance will be credited back to you. So, just total hypothetical number, but let's pretend like it costs $25,000 for a 3-1 buy down, a 3-year buy down of your rate. Every single month that a payment is due during those first 3 years, money is actually being debited from a separate account that was established with the money that it costs to buy the buy down. So a little bit of money comes out every month, and slowly that we'll call it the buy down account
Okay.
is exhausted. But if you refinance ahead of time, you can get a refund of whatever's left in that account. So really, that's the only way that you could possibly benefit from a buy down. Other than that, you're really just deferring expense. So it's going to cost you X amount of dollars for interest in those 3 years. With a buy down, the illusion is that you're escaping that expense, but the reality is you're not. If the seller is giving you a credit to pay for the buy down, well, you're giving the seller a purchase price, which is where the credit originated from anyway. So
Okay.
it's a little bit crazy. Marketing is a big part of every industry, and unfortunately, the mortgage industry is not any different. We try hard at Ready Rate to make sure we educate our clients on every aspect of a marketing. Hate to use the word scheme, but a marketing idea,
Mhm.
and ensure that they understand whether there's an actual advantage or not.
Okay, I have one question here. Is say, can he explain the specific costs and fees associated with the buying down?
Yeah, definitely. It's actually pretty simple. The cost of a buy down is whatever the interest savings is for the difference in rate. So I'm using hypothetical numbers for easy math, but let's pretend like your regular rate was 7%, and you did a 2-1 buy down, which would lower the rate to 5% in year one and 6% in year two. And then in year three, it would go back to 7. So let's just say the cost of that buy down, or the interest, if you would have paid 7% for the first 2 years instead of 5% and 6%, let's just pretend like the interest is $40,000. If you get 5% in the first year and 6% in the second year, well, let's say that you're actually only paying $20,000 or $25,000 in this example. So the difference between those two is 15,000. So it would have been 25,000 if you had a 5% rate, a 6% rate, and then a 7% rate, or it would have been 40,000 if you would have just had a 7% rate all 3 years. So the cost of actually doing the buy down is exactly whatever the interest savings, I say savings, but it's really a perceived savings, is in those first couple of years of the buy down. So in this hypothetical example, the cost of the buy down would be $15,000. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yes, that's a lot of numbers in
Sure.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of numbers in there. But another way to consider it is just, I guess the best way to define it is the cost of the buy down is exactly what the interest savings is with the rate reduction.
Okay.
So the cost of the buy down is exactly what the interest savings is. So if buying down your rate in the first 2 years saves you $10,000 in interest, the cost of the buy down is $10,000. And this goes back to where a buy down is sort of a marketing strategy more than an actual advantage for consumers, because a consumer feels like if I'm getting a buy down, I'm getting an advantage. And if the seller's paying for that buy down through a seller credit, well, I'm not paying for it. So it's
Okay.
a win win. That's how it's marketed. That's not the reality.
Is any limitations or restrictions for a person who wants to apply to the buy down?
So
It doesn't matter if
the
it
main
has,
restriction is where the money.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
is
I'm
it
sorry.
difference between 2 buy down or 3 buy down? Does the max 3?
Yeah, right now the max buy down is 3 years. You can buy the rate down for 3 years, but it's really expensive. So we don't really do many of those just because the cost of it is so large that it just doesn't make sense financially. So the limitations really are what you can negotiate as a seller credit, and there are limitations to that, obviously, depending on what purchase price, size you're operating in, et cetera. So it's you know, I think at the end of the day, a lot of some sellers are marketing buy downs as a way to market their property. General rule: if you see a property that you really like and you want to buy it, and the listing is offering a buy down as a way to attract a right buyer, just ask yourself a simple question: Do I really need that seller credit, or do I have enough savings on my own? And if the answer is I have enough savings on my own, well, I'm probably going to make an offer to the seller then for a purchase price minus the seller credit because I don't really need it. There's no reason for me to do it. Remember, a seller credit is really just you financing
The
um,
the cost.
closing costs.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, like for example, if the seller is going to give you a $20,000 seller credit, well, you're financing all of that in your loan except for your down payment. So if you're just putting, let's say, 10% down, that means you're financing $18,000 if you're getting a $20,000 seller credit because you're putting 10% down in that example. So there's obviously a real cost to finance that over 30 years. Um, so again, the question is, if I'm ever thinking about taking a seller credit, do I really need it?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of situations where our borrowers benefit from a seller credit. Maybe they don't have enough savings and they need that to get them across the finish line. There's other examples too. Um, Maybe they need to keep money in their bank account post closing to handle repairs that they're going to do on their own, and the seller is willing to give them a credit so they have more money in their pocket after closing.
Mhm.
So there's some viable reasons why a seller credit might be beneficial, but personally, I don't think a buy down is one unless the seller just won't give you the house for less, and they only say you can buy it if they give you the seller credit and the buy down. Well, then I guess go ahead and do it.
Okay. That's amazing. Well, that's a great information. I know a lot of us and a lot of people that were watching, I know that's a very good insights in all this because it's a topic that everybody talking about, but there's no really much information of it. There's, you have a little letters that nobody read. That they
Yeah,
don't.
and not nothing for nothing. Anytime there is something that's being marketed that seems too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. I mean, it would be amazing if somebody would just come in and pay for a buy down for a borrower that made their interest rate lower like that, and actually save them all that interest in the first couple of years. That would be amazing, but it sounds too good to be true, and it is.
Perfect. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you for your time and all these weeks with all your insights about mortgage and everything that is to give us updates. If it's something comes around the corner, we're definitely gonna call you.
Sounds good. We're always here at Ready Rate, ready to help you achieve your goals. Like we like to say, we're the easiest way to achieve your goals of home ownership.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye,
Thanks,
Mikhail. Thank
Alex.
you.